Hi and welcome to another session from Blender Insight, and this time exactly the same pattern as last time, but with more math and less nodes. In the last session I did 4 node groups that we needed to correct to make everything work. And one other thing was that we added all the offset in every node group instead of doing automatic offset on the lines here. So I will do a version right now that do automatic offset of these so we get more math and less nodes. So let's start right now by pressing Shift A, input and texture coordinate. 90% will be exactly the same as in the last session, so I add a scale here to be able to add as many lines as I want to. Can take 5 here. Then I split it up by using a fraction. So Shift D and fraction, put that in here, and then we have something like this. And now I would like this point to go to the center here, and that I do with a subtract and a multiply. So I just press Shift D twice, change to subtract, change this to multiply, and this to 0.5 and this to 2. And as I said, I did it in the last session, so we just go on in a rather high speed. So I then add an absolute here, separate it with X over Z, and now you can see that we have X in this direction, Y in this direction, and what we did last time was that we used X as a mask filter to make the spaces between here. So we added here a less than, and I think we used 0.2, so we can use that as well here. And then we added a multiply here, and less than you can only give 1 or 0 out, so that means if it's 1 we don't change anything, and if it's 0 we make everything black, and the result will then be like this. We cut everything between here, and if we would like to have bigger width, then we change this, but we can have it to 0.2. Then we can shrink the values of everything here, so we can add a subtract. So we can put in subtract, and then we change the lines between here. So we can just take it down like this, or we can take it up. One thing that I didn't mention the last time, but is rather obvious, is of course that if you use subtract, we will not have 0 to 1 anymore. It will be, in this case, 0 to 0.9 instead, since we take away 0.1. And we can click clamp. Just the information. It will not change the pattern so much. Okay, so now we have everything exactly as we had in the last session. So what should we add? Well, we should add offset. So we change every second column here to go up 1/2 row. So that we add after the scale here. So we add a floor, and the floor will then take every non-decimal, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that means every row here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But now I only would like to have every second row, so we add a modulo and put the modulo to 2. And that will give us, so we get every second row. And now I will move this so we get some room here. And I separate this, separate X, Y, Z. And I'm now checking in the X direction. So we're checking in X direction, but we will move in the Y direction. So we start with X here, and we add a multiply, because I would like this to move half a step up in a row, so 0.5. I add an add, so Shift D and change to add, and even more room here. I need a combine here, and I think I had one or not, so okay. Then I just add a combine here, so Shift A, converter, combine X, Y, Z, and now, as I said, it will go to the Y direction instead. And now you can see we have an offset like this. Perfect, or almost perfect, because right now if you think about the length here, and try to fit that length in the x direction, you can see now that this is the length and it should go all the way here. So it should go under this one, over this one, and under this one. But it's too short. It will never reach from here to here. So we need lesser space between here. And we can fix that rather easily by adding a multiply after this scale here. So if I press Shift D, put it in here, and put that here, then you can see we can play with stuff if we change it to multiply. So if I put that to 1, I put it to 1, you can see if I increase this, the space between these gets smaller. So that is exactly what we want. But we don't want to increase the amount. So if we have 5 here, we should have 5 here. So then we put this to 0.5, and we put this to 1. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But with a smaller space or longer lines. So now everything will work fine here. So we can keep this. It will be really good to have. And I think this is all we need to make the node group. We take everything except the last and the first and Control G. And in the last session we did 4 node groups in total that we used. Here it will only be 2. So now we need to add some rotation. So we take Shift A, go to Vector, Rotate. And as I explained last time, if I change it now, I change it to the corner, but I would like it to be changed in the center, and then we change it to 0.5, 0.5, and now it changed in the center. So if I put this to 90 degrees, it will be in this direction. Perfect. And then we need some add, so Shift D, and the add we use for moving stuff. So here we can move stuff, and that means that we now can take press Shift A, converter, combine XYZ to get the offset in the X and the Y direction, and just move it here. And we now change X and Y by double click here, rate offset X, and this we change to offset Y, so offset Y. So now we have that in. We also need the scale, so we put in the scale, and then we need to have the angle, of course, so we can change that one. And I think that is all that is needed, and we can then add some more stuff later on. But we start here, go out, and we take these together a bit so we can see what we're doing. And we can change the name of this, so we can call it weaves. Just weaves. So we have that, and then we copied it, Shift D, take the UV here, but now we need to combine these, and we can do that with the maximum. So Shift A, converter, math, change it to maximum, and we also need to move this in rotation, so 90 degrees. So we need to be able to control the scale a bit, so we add Shift A, input value, and put that in here and that in here, and we can put that to 5. And the only thing now is the offset. And since I took and multiplied the lines by 2 inside this, I think it will just be to divide it by 2 here. Okay, let's see what happens. So I drag this out, right, divide by 2, and if I put that to the X here, it looks okay. If I move it to 3, it looks okay, and 7, it looks okay. So it looks okay in this direction, but we also need to move it in the other direction. So we could, I think it's just to move it backwards 1, so we could just use this, but we multiply with a -1, and I think that should be the solution. Yes, So if I now change 3 here, works, 5 works, and 7 works, and so on. And as I explained in the last session, since we now add these things together and these must match, we cannot play with this as we want to, so just the odd numbers will work here. But now you have a more simple solution when it comes to amount of lines here, but we had to add some additional math in these to get the offset, and there was this trap that we needed to multiply with 2 or with 0.5 and 1 to get the space correct when we turned this 90 degrees, so it went with the correct length here. So yes, to get this pattern here we can do that as well. So it's just to add a rotate here as well. So Shift A, vector, rotate, put that in here, put that in here, change it to 0.5, change this to 45 degrees. Now we have it like this, and then we could change the width and the gap. So we go to this by pressing Tab, and now we drag first the width, and the width is controlled by the less than, as you can see here. So we can take that, just drag it to the group input, a long way away, but all the way here, change the value to width. And we do the same with the gap, and the gap was in the end here, so the subtract is what is the gap. So take this value to the group input. So go back again, drag this to here, and can change this to gap. And then I just select the group input and press Tab, and now I have possibility to change the gap and width on both of these. So would be easier if we can do it at the same time. So we do Shift D, change the label to width, and then we do Shift D and change this label to gap. And the gap is 0.1 in the beginning anyway, and the width is 0.2. So now we can just connect the width with width, and we can take the gap with gap. So we have that in. So this is how we did it the last time, but as I said, with only 2 group nodes now instead of 4. So now it's easier to handle this. We can then play with this, and we can play with the width to get something that I have here. It can be that I have it more, yeah, 9, I think it was almost something like that. No, it was a big, it doesn't matter. I think there we have it. So I used gap of 0.3 and a width of 0.5, and then I got this pattern. So hopefully you learned a little bit more today, and I just say bye for now and see you later.